You know, AI agents are getting so powerful it's almost unbelievable. But they all share this hidden, fundamental problem: their memory. How do you build an AI mind that isn't just a giant data dump, but a perfectly organized, searchable brain? Well, that's the challenge we're going to dig into today.
Okay, let's try a little thought experiment. What if an AI's brain was like your desktop? You know the one I'm talking about? A total mess of random files, old downloads, duplicate screenshots. How could it possibly find the one crucial piece of info it needs in all that chaos? That right there is the core problem developers are up against.
So yeah, this chaos, it leads to some massive frustrations for developers. Let's break down exactly what's going wrong inside the AI agent's messy mind.
Honestly, for developers trying to build these things, it can be a total nightmare. First off, context is fragmented. Memories, skills, everything is scattered all over the place. Then you've got this constant flood of new information that just overwhelms the system. And trying to find anything is nearly impossible with old-school storage. When something goes wrong, good luck, it's a total black box. But the biggest problem of all? The memory is just a passive log. The AI isn't actually learning from what it does.
And that, right there, is the heart of the problem. We are swimming in data, but that's totally useless without high-quality, organized context. You know, it's the difference between owning a massive library and actually knowing where a single book is on the shelf.
So the big question is, how do you possibly bring order to all this chaos? Well, the answer might just be a system designed from the ground up to be a perfect, organized brain for AI. Let me introduce you to the proposed solution, OpenViking.
And you gotta love the ambition here. The team behind this project put it perfectly. Their goal is to let developers completely say goodbye to the hassle of context management. That's a bold goal, right? It signals a really fundamental shift in how we think about this.
Okay, so what is OpenViking exactly? In a nutshell, it's an open-source context database that basically acts like an AI's brain. And its core idea is beautifully simple. It organizes everything using a concept we all get, a file system.
And this, right here, this chart just lays it all out so perfectly. It's the shift from chaos to order. For every single problem, OpenViking has a specific, elegant solution. Fragmented context? Bam! Solved with a unified file system. Overwhelming demand? Managed with tiered loading. Can't find anything? Fixed with a smart recursive search. That black box problem? Solved. You can literally see how the AI is thinking. And that lack of learning? That's addressed with automatic session management. It is a systematic answer to every single point of failure.
All right, so we've talked about the what. Let's get into the how. How does this whole file system thing actually work in practice? Because this is where it gets really cool.
So to tackle that information overload problem, OpenViking is super efficient. Instead of just dumping a whole document into the AI's prompt, it creates 3 layers. L0 is just a quick one-sentence summary, L1 gives you the core overview, and only when it's absolutely necessary does it load L2, the full document. It's just like seeing a file name, then a little preview, before you decide to open the whole thing. It saves a massive amount of processing power and, of course, cost.
Okay, that makes sense. But it brings up another question, right? With all this neatly organized information, how does the agent actually find what it's looking for? I mean, a simple search just isn't going to cut it.
Well, it uses this really smart process called directory recursive retrieval. Think of it like a detective. First, it analyzes what you're really asking for. Then, using a broad search to understand the meaning, it finds the most relevant folder, not just a single file. Once it's in the right neighborhood, it drills down, searching inside that folder and its subfolders until it pinpoints the exact piece of information. It's a strategy of finding the right room before looking for the right book.
But here's the thing. This isn't just about fancy storage. Not at all. This is where it gets, well, truly mind-blowing. We're talking about creating an AI that can actually learn and evolve.
So OpenViking has this feature called automatic session management. And really, you can just think of it as a built-in self-reflection loop. After every single task or conversation, the system can analyze what just happened, the results, the feedback, all of it.
So what does this mean? It means the agent is constantly updating its own brain. For instance, if you like short, concise summaries, it learns that about you. If it figures out a more efficient way to use a tool, it saves that insight for later. The agent literally gets smarter with use, which means it achieves genuine self-evolution. It's not just a static tool anymore, it's an intelligence that's actually developing.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture here.
Who's actually building this, and how are they getting it into the hands of the developer community?
And, the creators made getting started just ridiculously simple. A few lines of code and a developer can have it up and running. By making it this accessible, they're clearly aiming for widespread adoption and community improvement. That's huge.
And look, this isn't some fly-by-night project. It's backed by the ByteDance Volcengine Viking Team. And if you look at this timeline, you can see they've been chipping away at this problem for years. They started with the core technology way back in 2019, used it internally, then sold it on the cloud. This open source release is really the culmination of years of deep, practical experience.
And for any of the tech folks out there wondering what's under the hood, it's mostly Python, which makes it super accessible, but it's got that high-performance C++ engine doing the heavy lifting. It's a really solid, practical combo for this kind of thing.
So think about where we started. A chaotic, messy desktop. But by using this really simple, elegant idea, a file system for an AI's brain, we end up with something that can actually evolve. We've seen that solving this fundamental problem of memory doesn't just make AI faster, it unlocks its potential to learn and adapt. Which leaves us with a final, pretty fascinating question. If you give an AI a perfect, evolving memory, what will it choose to create next?